We're going to take you live to the Pentagon, where the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, is giving a press conference. We're going to let you listen in live.
Capable force. The combination is sheer destruction for our radical Islamist Iranian adversaries. They are toast, and they know it. Or at least, soon enough, they will know it. And we have only just begun to hunt, dismantle, demoralize, destroy, and defeat their capabilities. Just 4 days in. Starting last night and to be completed in a few days, in under a week, the two most powerful air forces in the world will have complete control of Iranian skies, uncontested airspace. I hope all the folks watching understand what uncontested airspace and complete control means. It means we will fly all day, all night, day and night, finding, fixing, and finishing the missiles and defense industrial base of the Iranian military, finding and fixing their leaders and their military leaders, flying over Tehran, flying over Iran, flying over their capital, flying over the IRGC, Iranian leaders looking up and seeing only U.S. and Israeli air power every minute of every day until we decide it's over. And Iran will be able to do nothing about it. B-2s, B-52s, B-1s, Predator drones, fighters, controlling the skies, picking targets. Death and destruction from the sky all day long. We're playing for keeps. Our warfighters have maximum authorities granted personally by the president and yours truly. Our rules of engagement are bold, precise, and designed to unleash American power, not shackle it. This was never meant to be a fair fight, and it is not a fair fight. We are punching them while they're down, which is exactly how it should be. Thus far, Operation Epic Fury has delivered twice the air power of shock and awe of Iraq in 2003, minus Paul Bremer and the nation building. The campaign has 7 times the intensity of Israel's previous operations against Iran during the 12-day war, 7 times. And as President Trump said, more and larger waves are coming. We are just getting started. We are accelerating, not decelerating. Iran's capabilities are evaporating by the hour, while American strength grows fiercer, smarter, and utterly dominant. More bombers and more fighters are arriving just today. And now, with complete control of the skies, we will be using 500-pound, 1,000-pound, and 2,000-pound GPS and laser-guided precision gravity bombs, of which we have a nearly unlimited stockpile. We used more exquisite standoff munitions at the start, but no longer need to. Our stockpiles of those, as well as Patriots, remains extremely strong. The enemy can no longer shoot the volume of missiles they once did, not even close. And the chairman will lay out some of those percentages. So our air defenses and that of our allies have plenty of runway. We can sustain this fight easily for as long as we need to. And as I said yesterday, we set the terms. Now, you may not see much of it because the IRGC shut off the internet to the entirety of the country. They blind their people on purpose, just like they kill their own on purpose. Much was made of the volume of missiles Iran was able to shoot in the first few days. And sadly, as we projected, a few got through and killed 6 of our best, who will hopefully arrive home soon. We will avenge them, no doubt. But I liken Iran's predicament to a football team who scripted the first 20 plays of a game. The team knew what plays to run because their first few drives were scripted. But now that the game has started and the blitz is on, they don't know what plays to call, let alone how to get in the huddle and call those plays. Iran's senior leaders are dead. The so-called governing council that might have selected a successor, dead, missing, or cowering in bunkers, too terrified to even occupy the same room. Senior generals, mid-level officers, enlisted ranks, they can't talk or communicate, let alone mount a coordinated and sustained offensive. That's not great for morale. The Iranian Air Force is no more, built for 1996, destroyed in 2026. The Iranian Navy rests at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Combat ineffective, decimated, destroyed, defeated, pick your adjective. In fact, last night, we sunk their prize ship, the Soleimani. Looks like POTUS got him twice. Their Navy, not a factor. Pick your adjective, it is no more. In fact, yesterday, in the Indian Ocean, and we'll play it on the screen there, an American submarine sunk an Iranian warship that thought it was safe in international waters. Instead, it was sunk by a torpedo. Quiet death. The first sinking of an enemy ship by a torpedo since World War II. Like in that war, back when we were still the War Department, we are fighting to win. Also, yesterday, the leader of the unit who attempted to assassinate President Trump has been hunted down and killed. Iran tried to kill President Trump, and President Trump got the last laugh. Now, this is not a mission accomplished situation. This is simply a reality check. The combination of U.S. and Israeli intelligence and combat power will control Iran, and will control it soon. Sure, Iran will still be able to shoot some missiles and still be able to launch one-way attack drones at civilian targets, and their proxies will attempt to attack our embassies, bases, and soft targets. They are terrorists, after all, and they need to target civilians because they can't fight toe-to-toe. But we will find them, and we will kill them. This is what the fake news misses. We've taken control of Iran's airspace and waterways without boots on the ground. We control their fate. But when a few drones get through or tragic things happen, it's front page news. I get it. The press only wants to make the president look bad, but try for once to report the reality. The terms of this war will be set by us at every step. As I said Monday, the mission is laser focused. Obliterate Iran's missiles and drones and facilities that produce them, annihilate its navy and critical security infrastructure, and sever their pathway to nuclear weapons. Iran will never possess a nuclear bomb, not on our watch, not ever. And this is why
if you're just joining us, you've been listening in live to the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. He's giving a live update from the Pentagon, not only on the firepower that has been executed thus far, but also on what is to come. Standing by and listening along with you is Nader Hashemi. He teaches Middle East politics at Georgetown University. Thanks for standing by. I want to get your reaction to some of this. The thing that stood out to me the most was this taking control of uncontested airspace. He said they will be finding, fixing, and finishing. Iran leaders will look up and see U.S. and Israeli military. There will be death and destruction from the sky until we decide this is over. My first thought then is about civilians on the ground. What does this mean in Iran?
Well, it means that civilians will pay a huge price. I just looked at the data this morning, and I posted on my Twitter account that the most reliable figures we have of civilian deaths in Iran over the last 3 to 4 days is over 1,000, including about 118 schoolgirls who were killed on the first day of the war. We don't know if that was an American or an Israeli attack, but it's, wreaking havoc on the people of Iran who, as your listeners know, they're really caught between a rock and a hard place, between a deeply repressive and brutal and unscrupulous regime that has killed thousands of people, in January during the protests. And now, on the other side, they're being pulverized by this completely unhinged Trump administration. And you can sort of see it and hear it in Pete Hegseth's comments when he talks about death and destruction all day long. Let's not forget, it's the people of Iran who are the big victims here.
What do you make of this statement, this was never meant to be a fair fight?
Yeah, it's actually quite revealing because it doesn't reflect very positively on the Trump administration that they're not willing to have a fair fight. I wrote this down. He said, "We're punching them when they're down. This is how it should be." Is that something to be proud of? That you're sort of beating up a weaker party and then sort of reveling in the fact that you're playing by unfair rules. So really no surprise here. This is sort of the stock and trade that has really defined the Trump administration when it comes to basic rules of the international system. I mean, let's put aside the question of the post World War II international legal order. We're talking about basic sort of rules of warfare, the international humanitarian law tradition. Pete Hegseth is sort of openly bragging that they're throwing out the rule book, and they're acting sort of in a way that we all sort of know them to be, like sort of like a mafia organization willing to sort of use brutal force against a weaker enemy and then stand up and celebrate. I mean, that's what the United States effectively has become today. It's a very sad moment for the United States and for many Western countries, including, I want to highlight, including because we're talking on Canadian television, the Liberal government of Mark Carney, who's one of the biggest cheerleaders of this war against Iran.
His most recent statement saying that they do support the U.S. and Israeli war strikes, with the caveat that they appreciate that this is going against international law. But the takeaway statement from that is that they do stand in support.
Yeah, and this is sort of a revised statement. If one looks at the first statement that Mark Carney put out, it was effectively, when I read it, it read as if, this was written in the office of the Israeli prime minister. The language, the rhetoric, the theme, the new statement that you just quoted, where there's now a reference to international law, was because public opinion in Canada was just outraged over this blatant sort of, cheerleading of the American and Israeli war effort. And it's really the undermining of, Canada's historic contribution to international law and to a rule-based order. And moreover, Mark Carney himself, looks pretty bad at this moment, because in Davos 2 months ago, he gave this famous speech that was very well received, where he sort of lamented the passing of the old world order defined by international law and rules, and then this new world order that was emerging, where the strong could beat up the weak, and then this war breaks out, and he does a 180-degree turn and becomes a cheerleader for precisely the world order that he was condemning in Davos. And now this is sort of damage control. So he issues a new statement that you just quoted from, where he throws in reference to international law. Very unconvincing, a very dark and embarrassing moment for Mark Carney, and unfortunately for the government of Canada as well.
The Prime Minister will have an availability at a joint press conference that's happening with Australia's Prime Minister later in the day. I imagine this will be the line of questioning for the Prime Minister to respond to, because part of that secondary statement, as you mentioned, was that he said that civilian lives need to be at the fore of any of these decisions. But given what we've heard today, Pete Hegseth also saying the power on the ground is 2 times that of shock and awe. There is more power arriving today. We could talk about Americans who are still stuck and stranded there. We've talked about the civilians. But the other story that we were looking at that has since been delayed, first of all, was this public funeral for the late Ayatollah, which has been postponed because of security concerns. But also there was this announcement, this impending announcement about a possible new leader. How does this change who comes to the fore to lead in the future of Iran?
It doesn't change very much, because this is the question that everyone is asking today: who's the next leader? What does this mean for Iran? And inbuilt in those questions is an assumption that the authoritarian regime in Iran is similar to the authoritarian regime in Libya under Muammar Gaddafi, or under Saddam Hussein's Iraq, or Bashar al-Assad's Syria, where it was largely one man or a small clique of people. And so if you remove the top person, the entire edifice collapses. That's not how authoritarianism operates in Iran. It has many layers. It's institutionalized. There are many sort of bases of power, and there's a sort of a broad-based coalition of actors that really run the country through the National Security Council. So at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who the supreme leader is, because the basic structure of power in Iran still remains in place. I suspect, there's three names that have been circulated so far, one of them being the son of the former supreme leader, who they'll probably try to, anoint or appoint because he has close relations with the Revolutionary Guard Corps. But at the end of the day, one has to understand that, even if the next supreme leader is assassinated, that doesn't mean the regime is going to collapse. It has broad tentacles. It does have a small and very loyal base of support within the country. And now in the context of this really brutal, increasingly sort of shocking military attack on Iran, eventually nationalism is going to kick in and people are going to start to rally around the flag and not the regime necessarily, but around the flag and saying, why is the country being destroyed in such shocking ways? I mean, some of the images that I've seen are really out of a horror show. My big fear is at the end of the day, the regime is going to remain intact. It's going to remain very much in power.
And invigorated.
The beleaguered population down below will pay the big price.
Nader Hashemi, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for standing by and listening in live to that press conference and offering your context to it, out of it. Thanks so much. We appreciate you.
Thanks.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.